The long day on Outpost Horizon had finally ended. The station hung at the far edge of human space, a lonely metal shell orbiting a dim red star. For most people, it was a place to pass through quickly, a refueling stop on the way to better worlds. But for Daniel Ward, it was home. Daniel worked as an engineer, the kind of man who kept the power flowing and the life support humming while others made speeches or traded goods. He had grease on his hands more often than not, and his uniform was usually smudged with carbon dust. He did not care. To him, machines were simpler than people. They did not lie, and they always told him when something was wrong. This evening, his shift had stretched far longer than usual. A cooling unit in one of the docking bays had cracked, and most of the alien crews had refused to go near it, complaining about the dangerous fumes. So Daniel had gone in himself, patching the break, and resetting the system until the alarms faded. By the time he dragged himself back to his quarters, his arms felt like lead. He pressed the door control, expecting silence and rest. But when the door slid open, his breath caught. A tall figure stood in the room. Her skin was a faint silver blue, shimmering like moonlight, and her eyes glowed faintly under the room's dull lights. She wore heavy ceremonial armor, etched with designs he could not read. The helmet was already off, set neatly on his desk. Before Daniel could speak, she unclipped the clasps of her armor and let it fall piece by piece. The breastplate struck the floor with a dull thud, then the shoulder guards, and then the layered belt of metal plates. She moved quickly, as if shedding a weight she had carried too long. Daniel blinked. Excuse me?" The alien woman straightened, her long silver hair falling over her shoulders. Her voice was clear, though accented. "I am staying here tonight." He froze in the doorway. "You, what?" "I said I am staying," she repeated firmly. "This room, with you." Daniel rubbed his forehead, wondering if exhaustion had finally made him start hallucinating. But no, she was real, and her serious gaze never wavered. "Listen," he said slowly. "Maybe you've got the wrong door. These are crew quarters, not guest rooms." "I know." Her tone was sharp, but not hostile. "The guest wing is compromised. I will not remain there. Too many eyes, too many threats. Your room is safer. I chose it for that reason." Daniel finally stepped inside and let the door close behind him. "Safer? From what exactly?" The alien woman drew in a breath. "My name is Sirath, daughter of the House of Corrin. My enemies would see me silenced before tomorrow's council begins. Already 2 of my guards are missing. The others cannot be trusted, but no assassin would think to search for me here, in the quarters of a human mechanic." Daniel stared at her, trying to process her words. He had seen Sirath earlier, that day, standing among a group of alien delegates who had arrived for the diplomatic talks. She had looked regal then, tall and silent behind her mask of armor. He had assumed she was just another official from some distant world. Now she was standing in his room, declaring she was safer under his roof than among her own people. "Why, me?" he asked at last. Her eyes narrowed. "Because your kind are unpredictable, dangerous. Even my enemies know this. They will hesitate to step inside a human's den. That is why I am here." Daniel let out a tired laugh. "Unpredictable, huh? I guess that's one way of saying we're crazy." Sirath tilted her head, not sure if it was a joke. But she remained firm. "Do you refuse me shelter?" He sighed, looking at the pieces of armor now scattered across his floor. This was not how he had imagined his night would go, but something in her eyes told him she was telling the truth. She was afraid, though she carried it under layers of discipline. "No," Daniel said finally. "I don't refuse. But if you're staying, you'd better follow some rules. 1, don't touch my tools. 2, don't rewire anything. And 3, if you hear the station alarms, we both run." Sirath's lips curved into the faintest smile. Agreed. Daniel sat down heavily on the bunk, still shaking his head. "I don't know what kind of trouble you're in, but you sure picked a strange hiding place." She lowered herself into the corner of the room, sitting cross-legged with surprising grace. "Sometimes the strange place is the safest," she replied. For a long while, the only sound was the hum of the air recycler. Daniel tried to relax, but his mind raced. What did it mean that a foreign princess believed assassins hunted her on a human station? What danger was about to spill into his life? He had no answers, but he knew one thing. This was no ordinary night. And as Sarath closed her eyes, resting at last in the room of a tired human engineer, Daniel realized his quiet life on the edge of space was about to change forever. The station was quiet, that night, but Daniel felt restless. He kept glancing toward the corner where Sarath sat, watching her breathe evenly, seemingly calm despite the stories she had told. He did not know what to make of her yet, but something about her presence made the room feel alive in a way he had not felt in years. Finally, he spoke. "If you're going to stay here, I should know more about what I'm protecting. Tell me what's really going on." Sarath's eyes opened slowly. "I suppose you deserve that," she said, her voice calm but heavy with tension. "My people, my house, is at war with a rival faction. They want to seize control. My father commands respect, but not all of our kind obey him. Some see me as a threat." Daniel's brow furrowed. "So they're trying to kill you?" "Exactly," she said, nodding. "And it is not just my life. If I die, my house falls. My enemies will control my people, and many innocents will suffer." Daniel sat down on the edge of his bunk, rubbing his temples. This was far beyond fixing broken air ducts and cooling units. "And they came here? They have spies everywhere," Sarath explained. "Some within the station. I cannot trust the delegation. The moment they suspect where I am, they will strike. That is why I chose you." She looked at him directly, her glowing eyes catching the dim light. "You are human. Your kind are unpredictable. They will hesitate to search here." Daniel nodded slowly, beginning to understand the weight of her words. Humans had a reputation, he knew. Stories told across the galaxy painted humans as clever, resourceful, and sometimes reckless in ways aliens could not predict. Perhaps that unpredictability was exactly what Sarath needed. "You expect me to just sit here while assassins roam the station?" he asked. Sarath shook her head. "No. I expect you to survive, to keep me safe if danger comes. That is why I am here. We are allies, for now." Daniel glanced at her, noting how calm she seemed despite the danger she described. Most humans would panic in the face of assassins. He too felt his heart racing, but there was something about Sarath's confidence that forced him to think clearly. "All right," he said finally. "I'll help you, but we need a plan. I don't know much about your kind's politics, but I do know how to make this station defend itself." Sarath tilted her head. "Explain." Daniel pointed to the room's console. "This station is full of systems most people ignore. Maintenance shafts, unused drones, emergency bulkheads. I can turn all of that into traps and detection points. We can monitor movement, seal corridors, and control doors remotely. Anyone who tries to attack us will have to face more than just me." Sarath's eyes widened slightly. "You can do all of that?" "I can," he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "But I'll need time, and I'll need you to trust me." "Trust," she repeated softly. "Trust is not easy for my people, Daniel, but I will try." Daniel realized then that she was placing her life in his hands. Not because he was powerful or skilled in combat like her, but because humans think differently. They see problems, and they find ways to solve them, even when others cannot. That was what she was betting on. For hours, they talked quietly. Sarath told him about her training as a warrior, the strategies she had learned, the battles she had survived. Daniel listened, learning what he could about her strengths and weaknesses. Then he explained the station's layout, the emergency systems, and how he could use them to defend a single room, or a single hallway, against multiple attackers. As the conversation went on, Daniel began to see Sarath not just as a princess or a warrior, but as a person. She had fears, doubts, and moments of hesitation. She was strong, yes, but she was also human. Well, alien, but human in the ways that mattered. She trusted him enough to sit in his quarters, shedding her armor and her official identity. That was a sign of vulnerability she rarely showed to anyone else. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed through the room. Daniel's console flashed with a warning. "That's not good," he muttered, standing. "Someone just accessed a security node in the east wing. That area shouldn't be active." Sarath's eyes narrowed. "Then they are already here, perhaps scouts testing the defenses." Daniel moved to the console quickly, typing commands to track the source. "They're moving slowly. Looks like they're trying to avoid detection. Smart, but not smart enough." "You are confident," Sarath said, stepping closer. "Do all humans face danger with such calm?" He shook his head. "Most don't. Some freeze, some run. I've learned to keep moving. Panic doesn't fix anything. You just have to think." Sarath studied him, her expression unreadable. After a long pause, she said, "Then we will think together." The night stretched on. Daniel modified small doors to lock automatically, rerouted power to sensors, and programmed maintenance bots to patrol areas where they could be hidden. Sarath stood by, observing occasionally. By mid-morning, Outpost Horizon seemed calm. The red glow of the distant star painted the walls with a dull, rusty hue. Most of the station's residents went about their routine, unaware that danger was creeping through their halls. Daniel, however, did not relax. He moved quietly through the corridors, checking maintenance shafts and monitoring the sensors he had activated the night before. Sarath followed closely, her steps precise and controlled. She carried herself like a warrior, even in the relative safety of Daniel's quarters. "You are thorough," she said, observing him as he adjusted a sensor near the docking bay. "I have to be," Daniel replied. "These systems aren't just for decoration. One mistake and someone could slip in without us knowing. And trust me, someone is trying." Sarath's gaze hardened. "You are right. I have felt it. My enemies are close. Their scouts are likely on the station now, watching, waiting for the right moment." Daniel glanced at her, realizing how serious she was. This was not a story, a threat, or an exaggeration. She lived with danger every day, and tonight that danger had chosen him as well. They moved together, checking the west corridor where the delegates' quarters were located. Daniel pointed out hidden panels, service doors, and maintenance shafts. "If someone wanted to sneak through, this is how they'd come," he explained. "We can block the obvious paths, but the hidden ones, that's where it gets tricky." Sarath nodded, studying the access points. "You think like a strategist, human. That is why I chose this room. Most would not see the danger in the small openings, but you do." Daniel shrugged. "I'm used to thinking like a machine sometimes. A machine doesn't care about fear. It only reacts to inputs and outcomes. Humans are a little like that, I guess, sometimes." For a moment, they were silent, walking through the station with their minds focused on the invisible threat. Then the first anomaly appeared. A small door at the end of the west corridor clicked open and closed almost silently. Daniel froze. "Someone's here." Sarath's eyes narrowed. "Prepare yourself. This is no ordinary intruder. I can sense intent. They are cautious, trained, likely scouts." Daniel tapped a sequence on his handheld console. A tiny maintenance drone appeared from a hidden hatch and patrolled the corridor. Its sensors scanned for heat signatures, movement, and sound. "They won't know they're being watched," Daniel whispered. Sarath crouched slightly, ready to act if needed. Together they waited. Shadows moved along the walls, flickering, with the red light from the station's power conduits. The intruder paused near the maintenance drone. Then, almost as if sensing something, they retreated, disappearing into the shadows. "They are testing us," Sarath said quietly. "They want to know what defenses exist, how we will react." Daniel nodded. "And they underestimated us. That was a mistake." The day wore on, but Daniel and Sarath did not relax. They moved through the station like ghosts, checking systems, reinforcing doors, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Daniel marveled at how skilled Sarath was, not just in combat but in reading people, or in this case, intruders. Her instincts were sharp, her mind always calculating the next move. By afternoon, another signal appeared on Daniel's console. This time it was different. A pattern of movement in the central hub suggested multiple intruders. "They're coming in force," he said, tension rising in his voice. Sirath's eyes flashed with determination. "Then we fight, human. We cannot hide forever." Daniel swallowed hard. He was not a soldier. He was an engineer. But the strategies he had prepared, the traps and monitoring systems, were designed to give them the advantage. He began activating hidden bulkheads, rerouting power to security doors, and preparing automated defenses. Sirath moved with him, coordinating silently. "If they split, you handle the left, I'll handle the right. Stay calm, don't hesitate." Daniel's hands moved quickly over the console. He had set up pressure sensors in the corridors and motion detectors near critical points. "They will trigger the traps before they even know it," he said. "But we have to be ready, nothing is guaranteed." The station trembled slightly as a distant bulkhead door slammed shut. A low hum of alarms vibrated through the walls. Daniel realized that the intruders had made their move. They were testing, probing, and striking simultaneously. "Move," Sirath commanded. She dashed ahead, disappearing down a side corridor with Daniel following close behind. Small drones and automated turrets activated, flashing lights and sending warning signals into the dark halls. They rounded a corner and Daniel saw a shadow slip along the wall. He signaled, and a maintenance door slammed shut behind the intruder, forcing them into a controlled area. Sirath moved with lightning speed, blocking the escape route. Together, human and alien pressed their advantage. For a moment, everything was still. Then the shadows moved again and Daniel realized that the battle was only beginning. This was no longer a quiet station. It was a chessboard, and every move counted. Sirath looked at him, her face serious. "I chose you because you think differently," she said. "Most humans would panic. Most aliens would fight recklessly. But you see the paths they take. That is why we survive." Daniel swallowed. "I don't know about surviving," he said, "but I do know we can fight smart." The intruders retreated into the labyrinthine halls of Outpost Horizon, but Daniel and Sirath knew they would return. The station was no longer a place of quiet work and lonely nights. It was a battleground, a proving ground for human ingenuity and alien skill. And as the red light faded slightly with the station's artificial adjustments, Daniel realized the truth. He was no longer just an engineer. He was a guardian. And beside him, the alien Princess Sirath was more than a guest. She was a partner in survival, a reminder that sometimes the galaxy's greatest strengths came from unexpected alliances. The station had grown tense, almost alive with the unseen threat stalking its corridors. Daniel moved like a shadow, checking sensors, rerouting power, and silently counting the minutes until the intruders struck again. Sirath walked beside him, alert, her warrior instincts sharpened to every subtle vibration of the station. "We cannot stay in the same room forever," Sirath said, her voice low. "They will return. They are learning." Daniel nodded. "I know. That's why I'm thinking differently. Most aliens would fight them head-on or retreat to some safe chamber. Human, we improvise. We use the station itself as a weapon." Sirath tilted her head. "Explain." He led her to a maintenance hub near the central conduit lines. "See all these service ducts? Nobody ever checks them. But I do. If they come through there, I can seal the exits, redirect air pressure, even send small drones down to track them." Sirath's eyes widened slightly. "You can control the environment itself? You can turn the station into a trap?" "That's the idea," Daniel said. "They expect humans to fight with weapons, maybe brute force. They won't expect we'd fight with the station." Sirath studied him carefully. "This is why humans are dangerous," she said quietly. "You do not fight by the rules. You create new rules. That is why I came here. That is why I trusted you." Daniel allowed a faint smile. "Glad to be of use. But it's not over yet. They'll come back stronger, smarter. We need to think ahead." They spent the next hours setting up improvised defenses. Daniel rigged corridors to lock automatically when pressure plates detected movement. He redirected lights to flicker and create illusions of space, confusing anyone who tried to navigate. Tiny drones were hidden in ventilation shafts, ready to alert them to intruders. Sereth helped, offering insights from her warrior training. If they split into teams, they will try the shortest route to me. You should expect them to ignore the obvious paths first. Daniel nodded. Exactly, and if they take the obvious path, the doors will trap them before they even know it. As they worked, the alien princess began to relax slightly. She was still cautious, still tense, but she began to see Daniel's logic. Humans were different from any species she had encountered. They didn't rely on strength alone. They relied on ideas, on creativity, on using the environment itself as a weapon. You think like a strategist, she admitted quietly. Not all humans do, but you see patterns, possibilities. That is why I came to you. Daniel shrugged. It's not magic, it's observation. You look for weakness, predict movement, and act before others realize what's happening. Any engineer could do it if they think fast enough. Outside the hub, the station's quiet hum was suddenly pierced by a distant metallic clang. Daniel froze. They're testing us again, he muttered, and they're getting bolder. Serath's eyes narrowed. Then we will use the station, as we planned. Follow me. They moved through the corridors with practiced precision. Daniel activated hidden panels, rerouted power, and locked doors silently behind them. Shadows moved ahead, and the sensors indicated multiple intruders attempting to reach Serath. Daniel guided her through maintenance shafts and service corridors that few beings ever noticed. The intruders had no idea where they were. They were navigating a maze designed by human ingenuity without realizing it. Almost there, Daniel whispered. Once we reach the central chamber, we can funnel them exactly where we want. Serath glanced at him, a hint of admiration in her gaze. I did not expect this from a human engineer. Your kind. You are clever in ways even warriors do not consider. Daniel chuckled softly. Well, that's why you trust humans, right? We survive because we think. Night fell over Outpost Horizon, and the quiet hum of the station hid a growing tension. Daniel and Serath had spent the day preparing. Every corridor, every maintenance shaft, every hidden panel was rigged for defense. The intruders would soon arrive. And when they did, Daniel's ingenuity would be tested like never before. Daniel checked his console one last time. They're coming, he said quietly. I can feel it. Sensors show multiple heat signatures moving toward the central chamber. Serath's eyes narrowed. Then we follow the plan. Remember, funnel them, isolate them, and strike only when we are ready. Daniel nodded. He adjusted the settings on a small drone that hovered silently in the corner. Once they enter the first corridor, the automated doors will activate. The traps will funnel them into the service shafts. They won't even know what hit them. Serath flexed her fingers, her warrior instincts sharpening. Good. We will fight together, side by side. The first intruder appeared, stepping lightly, into the corridor leading to Daniel's chamber. As predicted, the pressure plate triggered. The corridor locked behind him, and flickering lights disoriented him. A tiny maintenance drone activated, following him silently, alerting Daniel to every move. Got one, Daniel whispered. They're falling right into it. Serath moved silently ahead, hiding in the shadows of a side panel. She waited, ready to strike if the intruder tried to escape or disable the trap. The intruder froze as a metal door slid in front of him, forcing him down an alternate path, exactly as Daniel had designed. Minutes later, more intruders approached. Daniel activated the next set of traps. Doors slammed, lights flashed, and air pressure shifted, forcing the intruders to move in ways he had predicted. Every step they took brought them closer to the service shafts, closer to being isolated from one another. Serath struck first. One intruder attempted to climb a ladder in a maintenance shaft. With precise motion, she blocked his path, disarming him with a quick sweep of her arm. Daniel's sensors alerted him to another intruder entering the corridor behind her. "Move. Left," he whispered. A hidden door swung open, trapping the intruder in a small chamber. "Your plan works," Serath said, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel smiled faintly. "Of course it does. Humans think differently. They won't. Expect the environment itself to fight them." The intruders tried to regroup, but Daniel and Serath anticipated their moves. One by one, the attackers were funneled into sections of the station where escape was impossible. Maintenance drones followed silently, tracking movement and alerting Daniel and Serath to any changes. Suddenly, a group of intruders tried to split and take an alternate route. Daniel's eyes widened. "They're adapting." Serath glanced at him, calm as ever. "Then we adapt faster." She moved into the new corridor, placing herself where she could block them while Daniel activated another trap. Hatches slammed shut, lights flickered wildly, and the intruders were forced into a dead end. The battle continued for hours. Every intruder that came was isolated, trapped, or subdued. Daniel's clever use of the station gave them the advantage. Serath's warrior skills ensured that any intruder who tried to fight physically was met with precision and strength. At one point, an intruder attempted to disable a control panel. Daniel's fingers flew over the console, activating a secondary lock. The intruder was trapped between two metal doors with no way out. Serath approached silently and subdued him, her movements efficient and controlled. "You are remarkable," she said quietly to Daniel. "Most humans would panic under pressure. You do not. You calculate, predict, and act. That is why you are dangerous." Daniel chuckled softly. "Dangerous? Maybe. Or maybe I'm just stubborn." As the night wore on, Daniel realized that the intruders were no longer coordinated. Their attacks were chaotic, confused, and predictable. The human and alien duo had turned the station into a labyrinth, a deadly puzzle that could not be solved by brute force alone. Finally, the last intruder tried to reach the central chamber. Daniel activated a sequence of traps that sealed all exits and redirected air pressure, forcing the intruder to crawl through a narrow maintenance duct. Serath waited at the other end, ready to stop him. The intruder struggled, trapped in a space too small to fight effectively. With a swift movement, Serath disarmed him and knocked him unconscious. Daniel sank onto a nearby console, exhausted. "I think that's it. All intruders accounted for." Serath stood beside him, her breathing steady but her eyes still alert. "You have done more than I expected. You did not just protect me. You turned the entire station into a weapon. You're thinking human. It saved lives tonight." Daniel smiled faintly, his exhaustion fading slightly in the glow of their victory. "Humans survive by thinking differently. That's all. We adapt. We improvise. We don't follow the rules that others do. That is why we win." Serath nodded. "And that is why I trust humans. You are clever, resourceful, and unpredictable. I came here thinking I needed shelter. I did not expect to find an ally." Daniel looked at her, understanding dawning. "An ally?" "Yes. Not just for tonight, but for whatever comes next. The galaxy is full of dangers, and tonight proved that humans and aliens can work together in ways others never imagine." The station was quiet once more, the hum of life support the only sound. Outside, the red star's dim light painted the walls, but inside Daniel's quarters, a partnership had formed. A human engineer and an alien princess had faced danger side by side and prevailed. Serath finally allowed herself a small smile. "Tomorrow the council may still be dangerous. But tonight you showed me the power of human thinking. I am glad I chose this room, and I am glad I chose you." Daniel shook his head, smiling faintly. "I'm just a mechanic. But together we made the station a fortress, and that's what matters." For the first time in a long while, both human and alien felt a sense of calm. The immediate danger was over, the intruders defeated, and the station safe. But both knew that this was only one night in a galaxy full of uncertainty, and both knew that as long as they trusted each other, They could face whatever came next. The red star hung low in the sky outside Outpost Horizon, casting long, dim shadows across the station's metal walls. The hum of life support was steady, almost peaceful now. After the night's battle, Daniel felt a strange sense of calm settle over him. For the first time, the station seemed safe, not just from intruders, but from the uncertainty that had filled the air for weeks. Sarath stood near the window, gazing at the faint glow of the star. Her armor was gone, folded neatly in a corner, and her hair fell freely over her shoulders. There was a quiet strength about her, but also a softness that Daniel had not seen before. "You fought well," she said quietly. "Not just with skill, but with your mind." "I am impressed, Daniel." He shrugged, trying to hide his pride. "It was the station more than me, and maybe a little luck." Sarath turned to him, her glowing eyes serious. "No, it was more than luck. It was human thinking, the ability to adapt, to see paths others cannot, to turn a simple environment into a weapon. That is why I trust humans." Daniel looked at her, realizing how far they had come. She had arrived as a stranger, an alien princess hiding from danger, and now she was an ally, a partner who had seen him at his most vulnerable yet trusted him implicitly. "I never expected this," she continued. "I came here thinking I only needed shelter. I did not expect to find friendship or trust or someone who could think as I cannot." Daniel smiled faintly. "Trust is hard, but sometimes it's the only way to survive." Sarath nodded. "And survive we did, together." For a long moment they stood in silence, the weight of the past night settling over them. The intruders had been defeated, the station was safe, and yet both knew that the galaxy beyond the station's walls remained unpredictable. There would be other threats, other enemies, other dangers, but for now, they could breathe. Sarath stepped closer. "I will not return to the council just yet. The journey back would be dangerous, and I do not trust the others to protect me, not after what I have seen." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "So, you're staying?" "Yes," she said firmly. "I am staying tonight, and perhaps longer. I see now that humans are not just clever. You are reliable, brave, and adaptable. Qualities that are rare, even among the strongest of warriors." Daniel laughed softly. "Adaptable, huh? That's one way to put it. I guess you'll see a lot more of that if you stick around." Sarath allowed herself a small smile, a hint of warmth in her expression. "Then I shall stay. Not just tonight, Daniel, but as long as I need to be safe, and perhaps longer. You have shown me that humans are not to be underestimated, that their minds are as sharp as their strength." Daniel felt a strange mix of pride and responsibility. This was not just about keeping her safe anymore. It was about alliance, trust, and the bond they had formed. "You're welcome to stay," he said simply. "But be warned, life with humans is never quiet. We think differently, yes, but we also act differently. You might not like the chaos." Sarath laughed softly, a sound that echoed lightly through the room. "I have faced chaos all my life, human. I think I can manage a little more." As night deepened, Daniel and Sarath sat together in the quiet of the room. They talked of many things: the politics of her homeworld, the technology of the station, and the stories humans told of their ingenuity and resilience. With each passing hour, the trust between them grew stronger.